Hello, I am Hugo Ruiz Mireles, and this is my second teacher concept, I believe is the name of the assignment. I will be working on assignment 3 and teaching the concepts in this assignment. So this one is particularly special because it is a new way of formatting our programs. So instead of just having a solution with a C++ file that we just run immediately directly, we're going to be splitting things up into header files called HPP files and source files or implementation files called CPP files. So we're going to have 3 files in our project. One will be called the main CPP. The other will be called date HPP or whatever name, and the name of the header file should correspond with its source file. So firstly, a header file will contain an object. No, not an object. A class and function prototypes. So just enough information for the compiler to know what is happening. But we're not going to be putting the definition or all the code in there. It's just going to be a bunch of comments that explain everything. So let me just go to my Visual Studio, create a new project. Let's call this, I'm just going to call this main, so then it has a name. You just create it right away. So this is going to happen at the start. This is going to be the main. Only one file can have the main function. That is the important thing about the main. The main will be contained in this source files on the right in the Solution Explorer. You can see it right here. It'll be a source file called whatever name you put for it. I just put main because it makes it clearer. So what we're gonna want to do is first learn how to create the source file or the implementation file and the header file. So let's start with the header file. From the problem, we have to create a car class with car.hpp and car.cpp. The reason we keep the same name is so then we know that they're associated with each other. We can just look at the header file, read the details about that function and understand it perfectly and use it in our code without actually having to look at the source code and read through the function, the function and try to understand it. So to create a header file, what we need to do is go to this little fake directory called header files. They're not real directories. You just right click on it, add new item. If you already have one created before this, you can use existing item. That's what I would use beforehand until I realized that we could just create the file in there. Creating the new file. Okay, I just click that. They want it to be called car because it's supposed to be the same name as the class, so call it car.hpp. By default, the location will be in the same place as the main.cpp, and I don't know if that's required. I think so because every time I've tried outside of it, it hasn't worked. So we just add that and boom, we have it created. The only important thing to remember is that pragma_once is necessary when using a header file or creating a header file. I believe pragma_once's purpose is to make sure that we only define this file once, because if we create it multiple times, it would be the equivalent of creating multiple variables of the same name, same type, which would cause an error. So here we will create the class called car. And then we'll just put some basic information about it. Copy paste this. Oh wait, whoops. Variables and classes should always be private, or mostly be private, I'm pretty sure. Just so then you remove access. Oh right, you have to include IO stream here too. It's not just a file that you just put text into. You actually have to treat it like a normal file. Just put that in. Right. Using namespace. std. So just boop. Oops. Boop, boop, boop. Boop, boop, boop. Boop, boop, boop. Okay. Public. Let's just create a simple thing. I mean, I don't want to go through the entire problem because there's like 12. How many is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like 6 functions. I think the most important ones are probably just to go with these 3. So let's just copy paste those. Delete this. Delete those 2. Delete that. There we go. And that's this isn't really supposed to teach. Video is supposed to be about teaching what classes are, what they do. This is a constructor. These will just be the default things. So in here we have our class. We use function prototypes. We have the variable names. So we're basically just giving the bare minimum information here. Normally what you would want to do is put the summary, preconditions, and post conditions underneath methods. If they're simple ones, then just go with the summary, should be enough. But yeah, that's a header file. In the main, what you're going to need to do now is include this header file. You're going to want to do that with parentheses, so then the compiler knows that it is a user-defined header file and not a built-in header file like these ones with angular brackets. So instead of angular brackets, we use the parentheses to distinguish them. So do car.hpp. It should work. There we go. So we should have access to car. Yep. So now we have access to the class car, and we can create objects. So let's just say Honda. So we can do that now. That's good, but none of our functions or methods in our class have definitions. They're all missing definitions. Function definition cannot be found. So in order to make up for this, we need to make a C++ file or a source file, implementation file, whichever one you want to call it. Do the same thing as before with the header file, where we create a new by adding and creating a new item. We're going to do this to the source files fake directory that contains the main CPP file too. Create the source file. This one we're going to make sure it's always the same name, so then it's easy to locate and link the two together. So we're calling it car.cpp. And then in here, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to define these. So just put that there. Include IOStream. You're going to want to do that again. I believe it's include. You have to include the header file too, I'm pretty sure. So now that you've included that, remember you're going to need the access modifier to access the class outside of the scope that it is in. Normally it would just be in a scope of the header file, but because we're calling it from another file, we're going to want to call it with an access modifier, whatever it's called. So now we're just going to want to give them definitions, I guess std. I mean, I could just use the namespace. Using namespace, std, so count, I don't know, make, handle. For this one, we're gonna want to just color equal init color, init make, make equal init make. Oops. Init model, and then year equal init year, speed equals 0. I believe that was it. So all of the variables in the header file will now get a assigned value if the object is created with these parameters or arguments passed into it at the same time. So in order to do that, we can just do this, where instead of just having a default constructor, we can input the stuff into it. So I believe the first one was the model. Actually, no, it's too much work because I think it's a string and then, yeah, so I'd have to create a variable for that, I'm pretty sure, because the compiler changes it to const char if you just insert a normal, I guess, parentheses or whatever. And then here you're gonna want to just set a color, or actually let me just copy paste the last ones. So all of these, set them all equal to empty strings. Pretty sure that's what the problem wanted, if I remember correctly. Init year, set it to 1886, I believe. Precondition 1886. Oh, okay. I'll do that later. It's just an if-else statement. Just make sure that the init year is greater than 1886 in the code right here. If not, then set it to 1886 because that's just the default. And yeah, that's pretty much how you set this problem up. So you have the car.hpp, car.cpp, main.cpp, and with these three, you can just create the finish the problem. Something I learned on my own that is helpful for this is instead of having to create a whole new project for problem 2, because we can only have one main per project, is to create another project under the same solution. So we can just right click the solution right here on the right in Solution Explorer, click add, and then new project, console.app. Let's call this main2, I guess. I'll just rename this file. But yeah, so now we have two of these. We have main and main2. These are two different projects, meaning that you can have another main function or main file in here. They both can, I don't know if they can run at the same time. Technically, I'm pretty sure they can. But in order to be able to run the second one, because by default, you wouldn't be able to run it, you'd have to click on solution main, go down to configure startup projects, and then in here, you'll be prompted to select these three. I think by default, it will be current selection, or no, single startup. It will always be single startup by default, I'm pretty sure. Because then there's only one that you can use. I recommend, or at least I use, is current selection, because then you can just switch between the two whenever you want to. So now I can run main or main2 whenever I want to, just clicking the left click right here. But yeah, you could do the same thing again right here. Just create the header file. So .hpp, and then creating the source file. Just call it CPP instead. There we go. So now we have that, and then boom. Let me pause this for a second to look for the file location before going back to the last part of this problem, which is the handling of the multiple files. Because submitting 6 files is a little bit tricky and will get really long really quickly, especially if we have multiple classes in one project. So in order to handle this better, it's better to zip, which is what she wants us to do for this. Yep, submit a zip file. So let me find them and get to that. Alright, so after finding the location of where you stored it, you can store it anywhere, it doesn't matter, just go to the repository. Here under the same solution, you'll have the two projects, just like in there. You can see main2, main, just main. So right here, you got the solution and the two projects. I didn't really focus on main2, it was just an example of how to create multiple projects under the same solution. So let's just go under main the normal main. And in here we will have 3 files. What the problem wants us to do for it is to create a zipped file with the 3 of them included. Arteaga likes us to submit it with a and then the number of the assignment and then problem number. So we'll do just that. I'm gonna select all of them, then go to compress to zip file, and then right here we just call it whatever we want. Like I said, Arteaga likes us calling it A3 problem, and I believe it's problem 1. And in this compressed zip file, we will have 3 files inside of them, and then the professor can just simply extract them whenever they want to. We just submit this one folder or zipped file, whatever, and it should work. And that's it. Yeah, file type zip. So that's pretty much it. Sorry if this is a really long video. I kind of wanted to do this about classes in general, but I guess I also think this is important too, because files and programs and all that is kind of confusing, and I think they change across languages. Like Python, they have virtual environments. C++ has different things, so I think a nice little tutorial about that's helpful, and trying to memorize that's the most helpful thing. But yeah, that's all.